What's up, everybody? So I've had one of my best weeks ever this week. So let's go over my trades. So as we can see, one of my funded futures accounts, my expert account, is back up to 7,800, even though I took out a payout of 2,500 on this day, right? So actually made like around 450 on this day. But they took out 2,500, so it's counted like that. You can see on TradeZella, where I also have all of my trades, essentially, that's true. So this week, across all my PA accounts, I made $12,000, which is amazing. But we can just, for just simplicity's sake, just cut off all of the other accounts because I was mostly trading on this one. So 8,742 on my my funded futures, 150K. So you can see right here, I made $442, and this was live on YouTube. So what I find really interesting, right, is my trade win rate is not that great. Okay, it's not that great. But my average win is 3.5 larger than my average loss, right? So I'm pretty much risking one to make 3, or I've let my winners run. So if you have, I just want to remind everyone, if you're risking 1 to make 3.5, you just need a 22% win rate, and I'm far above that for that one. If we include all my other accounts, let's see what it is. It's like a 47% win rate and a 3R essentially, right? So if I do that, how much do you need to break even? 25%. So pretty great week, and that's far above 25%. So that's how I've been able to be very profitable this week, essentially. But if I go for just this month, my RR is 2.7, so still really good. But that being said, I can definitely increase my win rate if I were just to filter some trades out and stop being a little bit impulsive. And I'll talk about a little bit later the trades that I've learned from this week for sure. By the way, you guys, I am already at 3,200 above the buffer for my 150K account, so I can just wait like 10 days and request that out, as well as like around 2,200 from my static account. So I'm definitely debating whether I should keep trading and try to run this up, or should I secure the payouts and trade other accounts / other evals in the meantime. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. I am leaning towards paying myself though. And yeah, that's just my static account right here. So I can withdraw 2,300 if I just like wait 14 calendar days, so 10 more days. Let me know in the comments, what should I do and what would you do? So let's get started with the first trade, Monday's trade. This is DXY here. On Monday, I did not trade the morning because there was no news, but there were Fed speakers in the afternoon, so I had waited for that. So I had marked out this daily fair value gap on DXY, and I noted that there was an order block here that took liquidity into the daily fair value gap and had a strong reaction up. That was also aligned with a 1-hour fair value gap. So I had this marked out and I had an alert for it because that's a high probability bounce area for DXY, which would lead indices lower. And at that moment, which was around like 1, indices were still sort of, I can show right here, around 1 p.m. they were still sort of just grinding up. So I had waited for the drop first, right? Some people did short like up here. I might have taken something on an eval on a smaller time frame, but not on my funded because there was no real confirmation yet. So I watched it drip down lower, and that was my confirmation. At this point, NQ broke the low with a 5-minute fair value gap, right? So that's actually my order pairing zone where I thought people would, where shorts could be entered, right? So this is also like a 15-minute low here that was broken. And I noted on the 1 minute how pretty much every candle, right, was rebalancing, right? There's wicks on these candles that came back, and this was a low resistance liquidity run. So, and at this point, ES had actually not hit the low of day yet. And I thought it would definitely catch up because we were in high premium. We hit the previous week high already, so that as well as on NQ. And so watch for this reaction within this 5-minute fair value gap that broke the low. Some people also do like to just go short in here and then maybe a stop above here. And others wait for the reaction within it. Depends on what your risk appetite is. But here it came back into this area and it rejected. Created these up close candles, which were now order blocks, and it broke the fair value gap, had a change in state of delivery, and it reached back into the premium of this leg, which I believe the optimal trade entry aligned with this volume imbalance here. So that's where I went in short. And I just targeted an hourly fair value gap from yesterday's, from the day before, right here. I also wanted it to go for the low, but I figured it would not do so until maybe like the end of the day or the next day. And it did not. It reached down lower again, but it didn't hit the day before the Friday low. Anyway, even with that low-hanging fruit, that was a 3.5R trade, right? I also want to point out two other confluences that I saw at the time. It was from the fib from here, this second move up above previous week high. So this manipulation move from here to here. The second standard deviation fib extension lined up with that hourly fair value gap low, along with looking at ES and looking at how this first distribution broke 50% of the range, which ICT does say makes it a high probability silver bullet in here. So I'm sure some people went short ES here. This was pretty nice. Could have just taken this 5-minute, right? Broke this order block, and come back above 50% if it's actually a sell model. So I would probably put my stop there and then go for low of day if I were in the ES trade. Okay, so the next day was CPI. And the morning I did not trade because it was just very tricky. We had this huge move already since London, right? Like I said, we hit yesterday's low, and then this huge CPI move that went and basically took out this hourly failure swing in the morning. And I didn't really have such a great idea of what would happen, whether we were going to go for the data highs. I was more inclined that we were going to go for the data highs, actually. That day I said I was going to look for an inducement and then a move higher. And at lunchtime I did. I tried long, I believe here or here. I think I tried 2 longs and got stopped out because I thought, oh, like we were tracing this OTE, you know, let me try the long. I believe I tried long here, stopped out like immediately in 1 minute, which is painless. It's good. And then again here. So then I saw, okay, I'm very wrong, because especially we broke this with many imbalances here. And I watched price action. Again, very similar to the day before. It came back, it filled this imbalance with these 2 green candle order blocks. And I was essentially just shorting in here. Can't remember exactly where, but I might have even shorted this, put my stop here as a first entry. I think I did. And then I was pyramiding within here. because the idea was we broke this with a fair value gap. We shouldn't come back up above this order block if we were going to go for last week's low, which was my target at that point, along with this low here. This low first was my first target, and I did hold a runner for last week's low. My issue was I actually had one more trailing, and I should not have done that. I kept one because of greed, and I got rid of it like around here, and then I was done for the day. But look at that crazy reaction. Right, so very similar to the other day, where it broke. It also inverted this. That was a huge tell for me as well, is that it inverted this, all this fair value gap move up, the 15-minute. I remember that actually quite clearly now. When this got inverted, I knew, especially I got stopped out with large displacements, it was time to flip short. So my first entry was around here. I've had my stop there. So I already lost about like, I think around $1,200 on trying these longs here. Put my stop there. And I targeted this. Along with, I definitely added within here. When this had the change of state in delivery and it filled this imbalance, then I moved my stop to here. And I had a very small stop at that point, so I could add more contracts. And that's essentially how this became my biggest winner of the day, because I was able to add more contracts within here. Oh, this is what I was doing. I was just shorting within this inverted fair value gap and this order block. So since I didn't really and I probably did add a short in here. And yeah, this was the first target, even to here. This is a 4.5 R after the pyramid, right? So without the pyramid, it would be 2.5. But I was also aiming for, and I did get out at last week's low. I had trailing stops. So that was my biggest trade. So this is a 5R without the pyramid. But with the pyramid, it was like, it turned into like a 10R trade essentially for the last target. All right. Right, so I'm always flipping through different time frames as well to see if I could see any other entry criteria, but essentially that's what I was going short on. But essentially I just knew the direction and I knew where to put my stop, so that's all you really need. That was my biggest trade for sure, and that was a crazy reaction. I was very tempted to get back in. Thankfully, I just stopped myself for the day and decided, yeah, I was content with enough because that was my biggest day. I made like 3.8K that day. And I also want to point out that that day, DXY at CPI just had this huge imbalance up, never even came back into it. And it was just basically grinding up all day. It's probably how I should have filtered out those longs that I tried, because when I was trying those longs, you know, there was no indication of any bearishness, really. Picture of my executions from CPI. As you can see, I was shorting within here. I think here I decided I had too many contracts, I had to take one off. Took a partial where I noted before that 9:30 low, I believe, or 10 a.m. low. And then I basically ticked the low there on that exit. And like I said, I did have a trailer, and then I tried think about like getting into another trade, and then I just scratched it. So that definitely contributes a little bit to my lower win rate when I decide those trades that are scratches. But you know, that's why my RR is so high as well. Okay, so on Wednesday we had gapped up. I had marked out the regular trading hours gap. I was still bearish because DXY was holding up bullish in the same area as the previous day. So I took two trades, and I took these on live. on the live stream. So let's go over them real quick. Let's go to Wednesday right here. So it's going to make it easier to switch time frames if I click the replay. So at the open, we pretty much took out the pre-market highs and created a fair value gap. So I immediately went short in this candle, and I took a partial, and then I got stopped out break even. So I had a small win there. I took the partial at this 15-minute low into a fair value gap. It's essentially where a lot of times we bounce, if you guys have noticed. Go low and swing low into a fair value gap, typically a good area to target, right? And that's where I took my first partial, and I was actually aiming for London lows because London low just went straight up, right? And we had a fair value gap there on the hourly, and also we had a regular trading hours gap. But so I got stopped out of the rest of my position there, right? I wanted this for 2R essentially, but I took my partial around here, got stopped out with the rest on this move up, right? And then I just waited. We took out the high again. I have this on the live stream, but anyway, I was thinking it was going to be a false bull flag, but I was waiting for confirmation lower, right? And I didn't see any displacements until finally here. And then I took my entry in here. Again here, like you can see how efficient these candles are. They're coming back and wicking both ways. So when that happens and it breaks, inverts a fair value gap, I've noticed like it doesn't retrace often because this whole range is balanced, right? But I still put my stop pretty much at this candle's low, at this inverted fair value gap high, but I did not need to do that much of a stop, but you know, I'm still learning. And it wasn't so bad. It was like 23 point stop. And I was going for these lows, right? So about a 2R. And then once it had broke this low again, right? It created this nice silver bullet here for sure. Then I brought my stop lower, like to this high. Because then it shouldn't actually even retrace to this high anymore or invert this. And I could have this is like where I could pyramid, and I probably would if I were less pressure, not live streaming. Maybe I'm working up to it, right? Because I have pyramided this week on my own, but that is a skill, an advanced skill, so I'm not too worried about that. But essentially I was watching, making sure that this wouldn't get inverted because it took some sell side, and then boop, we dripped lower to my target, just low hanging fruit. Had I gone for London low, it did quickly deliver there within 3 more minutes of me taking that off. And later on, it actually went to the regular trading gap, regular trading hours gap. It filled the gap completely. That's where it bounced later in the day, but I was finished by 11, so I was happy with that. So because of the way that Wednesday closed, right, it bounced right there at that regular trading hours gap, and then it closed higher, right? It bounced in this also fair value gap and breaker block combo over here. Thursday, I was bullish, and on Thursday, I had marked out this hourly fair value gap, right? This is the whole fair value gap, and this is a low within it. So this was sell side liquidity here. And I was bullish overall, so I was looking for longs, and I was looking for a bounce within here, but Thursday was really not my best day. And there's a couple of reasons why, and this is where I can improve. So I took 2 losses on Thursday trying the longs in the morning. And the thing I realize now is when we are hitting an hourly fair value gap in the morning, right? And we already took sell side. So we reached actually a point of interest before 10, right? From 9:30 to 10. That's what ICT has stated a few times, is that if reaches a point of interest by 10, sell side liquidity. Then oftentimes at the 10 a.m., silver bullet will not appear, or and action will be choppy, right? So I had tried a long one in here. I think I kind of semi-chased that one, so not a good entry on that one. And then the second one, right, I believe I had just taken like a long within here. That was not really a good idea, as on the, like I said, I'm going to be watching more like on the 5-minute time frame rather than taking anything on the 1 minute if we hit an hourly point of interest, especially in the first 30 minutes of the day. So I should have just waited for this high to get broken, essentially. And you're going to see the next day how that ends up happening. And typically it'll happen from like 11 to 12, or a different type of move will happen during lunchtime, right? A different delivery. So yeah, I tried like 2 longs. I tried a long in here. I got stopped out. I believe I just put my stop right here. Yeah, I remember that. I got tilted from that. I literally went along here and I was like, well, like we're gonna go completely in the other direction, which is false because we already had our accumulation, like we had a manipulation at 8 a.m. already. And now this was a distribution, right? So there was the short, and then I was like targeting here, right? I was actually targeting, this was my target, actually. I remember this. I would have held for a long time. I wanted London hours from the previous day, right? We had this got hit later in the afternoon. Like this is buy side liquidity right here, especially since it looked like a market maker buy model now on the hourly, right? And yeah, I got chopped up here in the morning. So I'm gonna go for that, but obviously partials here. And then again, what I ended up doing is I was like, okay, I was a little tilted here, not gonna lie, because I got stopped out right here and then decided to bounce. Thankfully, I did not chase this and re-enter. And I put my fill below this because I had thought we were going to come back into this set of order blocks. And I was holding this essentially. But this is, again, where I could have managed my trade better, right? I was up about 20 points at this point, and I was looking for bullish fair value gaps to show order flow being bullish again. And there were zero bullish fair value gaps here, right? And then now there's a bearish one. So I should have, as it came, dug into here, and it was stalling at this high. It was not breaking above it with a displacement, right? That's typically how I'm reading price action. I should have just cut my trade, or at least bring my stop at break even. I did not have to take another loss there. But one good thing I did do was I was only taking micros. So my total loss for these 2 trades were less than $500, I think. So, at first I was long here and I put my stop like this. And again, same type of idea. And, had I thought that like by 10:50, it should have been already here. So I did get distracted though by the chat. So that's, something I'd have to work on, is just less distractions, just, manage a little better. But in the future, so that one good thing is that like I took very small loss. So the trade actually happened later in the afternoon, and this was a big trade for me. So I'm happy that at least my my losses were mitigated there. So here finally we broke a 5-minute high, right? And now this is like a breaker block, right? The high before the low. We finally broke it here. This is where I got involved, in this area. Okay, so let's go on the smaller time frame here and investigate it. Right, so it already broken this high as well. And this is an early entry. I did take an early entry in here. And my first stop was, I believe, like around here. So 20 points about. So I only had like a couple contracts there. I was risking $800. But then I was pyramiding as I broke this 5-minute high. I was noticing, okay, breaking these highs with a fair value gap again. And I was pyramiding in here because I had, like I said, these targets over here. You have your initial consolidation over here. This is an easy target where I took partials. And what ended up happening here, right? So I posted the larger breakdown on Twitter. But let's go over this again, no problem. So initially I was like long in here. Right, I had a stop around there. And my target was very high, so like I said, I wanted these London highs as my final target. 5R. But as I was pyramiding, I was looking at these balanced price ranges. We shouldn't come back below it. So I was trailing my stop now to these breaker blocks, lows, essentially. And my average fill was around like 53 or so, 56, I want to say. Because I had some in here, and then I did add a little bit in there. And as it was like coming to here, I should have taken one off, honestly. I think that was a little greedy of me. But like as it typically does retrace within a order block from that initial consolidation. Anyway, it came back lower. I had trailed my stop at this point to like the midpoint of this wick. So I literally only had like a 5-point stop at this point. And I took my partials here at the 930 high. So that ended up being with dynamically like a 5R trade, as well as then I had this marked out as the second target, and I noted how it was stalling here right before hitting it, right? So also I took partials here because as I'm seeing like these huge green candle, I have to take these partials essentially. And then I saw this completely stall, and I saw in the 15-minute, where was that? Right here. That was this candle. It was forming a black candle. And so I got rid of the rest of my position there. A few minutes later, like around here, because I was thinking we could retrace deeply again. So that ended up being another huge trade for me. But what ended up happening here, which I should not have done, is I ended up re-entering here just based on like 1 minute price action. I was like, okay, let me re-enter. And then I got immediately stopped out. I was thinking this is like rebalanced. And then I tried again to enter the same trade. Got immediately stopped out. So I took another loss, like about $750 there. And I think that's where I could definitely improve on as well, to just lower more losses and increase my win rate, is that if I'm getting rid of a runner, like that's it, like no more re-entering, right? Because the reason I got rid of it was probably fear that I was going to come back at break even, right? And then now I'm getting greedy and want to get back in, or FOMO. That shouldn't be how it works. And also, like I said, right? So from 9:30 to 10 was the delivery to this 1 hour fair value gap. And then that's typically when moves happen after the 10 a.m. silver bullet. So they typically happen like at lunch at this time, at this point. or like essentially like just I'm going to just look at the 5 minute instead of the 1 minute when this is happening. Because the next day on Friday, I'll go over that in a minute. A 5 minute 2022 model presented itself. So anyway, I took that loss here and then I called it a day. I'm happy I did because it just grinded here until the last 10 minutes of the day, just boom, just like rocket ship to those, to that target I had. And that would have made me annoyed if I missed it or if I got so chopped up. I could have definitely given back more if I stayed and overtraded. So I'm just literally shutting down my computer when I'm done for the day. So yeah. Okay, lastly on Friday, we had PPI. We already had a move lower, and then like I said, at 9:30 to 10, another example of it hitting this major liquidity, the previous day low from 9:30 to 10. So I did not enter anything this day. I learned my lesson from the previous day. This is sort of what I was talking about earlier, though, is that if you wait, you have to wait for the 5 minute swing high to be broken. Then you'll have a much easier time. This is not really good for NQ because, like, what are you exactly aiming for? Like, this buy side, you're so far from it. And there's not really equal highs on ES. ES was stronger. So you can see ES hit this previous day low, had a very strong reaction here. And this 5 minute swing high was broken with a fair value gap. So that was a possible entry for ES there that I did not take, but it would have yielded pretty much 2R here. Yeah, I would put it here because this is the leg that broke it. Yeah, it would have been only like a 6-point stop or so. Yeah, this would have given you 2R and ES, but I didn't take this. Like I said, because the thing that I'm backtesting with, pretty much 10 to 11 is not going to be the greatest, and it wasn't on NQ. So I ended up taking a short from 12 to 1:30 because I figured I said during the stream, that's what I would be looking for a delivery. And I ended up shorting here. We created this bearish fair value gap. It's very small while breaking these lows. And I was targeting just building a bridge, low-hanging fruit, this 5 minute order block in a discount. Fair value gap in an order block in a discount of this leg on the move up, right? So I had this marked out right there. And I believe at this point also DXY was moving higher. But NQ had retraced into the optimal trade entry of this leg down, and then it started to leak again. So I was looking for that short because I was short biased. And this was my my trade. This turned out very well for me as well. So this was a 3R. And actually, this was a pretty short trade, so I think I can show this on the TradeZilla replay. I've turned on dark mode for you guys for this one. So 1 second, let me find that. Okay, here we go. And then on TradeZilla's replay feature, it's pretty cool. You guys will see. So I saw this displacement, and then I just went short right there. My stop was up here because I was thinking about like the advanced market structure theory. This was a short-term high, intermediate-term high here. So I stopped it shouldn't go above this short-term high if we were bearish. And it sort of didn't start moving until 1250, which I thought it was interesting. And then we started to displace below these lows. I was watching these lows and I wanted to make sure that we closed below it, which we did. And then it reached back up into this fair value gap. And then finally more displacement. Right, and I was waiting for this think I took a partial, probably around here. Probably around here, because it was taking some sell side. Yeah, there's a partial, but the 5-minute fair value gap and order block were here. Okay, there we go. In this candle at 808. Right, so right there. And that was my trade. So yeah, I had mentioned during the live stream that I didn't think that this low was safe. Similar to how I was trying that long the day before, and I just thought people were putting their stops there. Well, on my other accounts, I did have some micros that I was holding for that, but as soon as this happened here, right here, this close above this high, I cut the rest of my trades off because it was after 130. It was going to go into 130, and 130 often manipulates something, right? So what ended up happening, I think, throughout the later, but because I just shut down my computer, I was done for the day. I was happy with that. Yeah, we took out that high again, and then later in the day, we came for this low right here, right? So yeah, that was my week. Yep, right there. Pretty good week. I definitely can reduce some of my losses, but overall, it just goes to show that you don't need a high win rate as long as you keep your risk managed. So yeah, I hope this was helpful, and we'll be back live streaming tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. every day.